Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.
Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Manusabata, Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, the High Court has adjourned proceedings to July 23 to hear the Attorney General's application to strike out the suspended Chief Justice's judicial review. Meanwhile, the Chief Justice has filed a fresh judicial review. Stay with us. This time against one of the petitioners seeking her removal. We'll get into it here on Ghana Tonight. Also, while the government is defending President Mahama's directive to scrap fuel allowances for government appointees, the minority dismisses it as a PR gimmick. Now, we go beyond the politics to hear from labor and energy experts to understand how the numbers look like and whether there's a real justification for this. The Bank of Ghana is warning businesses to immediately stop pricing products and services in dollars, explaining that the practice undermines the local economy. And the governor is also urging the private sector, especially businesses, to not really pay attention so much to what they call the speculative rates that the black market puts out there. We'll be finding out how that can be achieved beyond just the moral suasion today that the governor of the central bank put out earlier. And as always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we use is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
President John Dramani Mahama has revealed that financial clearance will soon be issued by the Ministry of Finance to pave the way for regional recruitment into the security services. The clearance, according to him, will allow each region to receive a specific quota to recruit young people into various branches of the national security apparatus, including the police, military, fire service, immigration, and prison service. He was speaking during a thank you tour of the Western North region in Sefi Joaboso. The Member of Parliament for Ikuapem North, Samuel Ewuku, has described the directive by President John Mahama to scrap fuel allowance for his appointees as set-ins. According to the NPP MP, the move is a mere populist gesture lacking real impact. He wants the government to back the directive with concrete actions, beginning with the closure of the fuel depot at the Jubilee House and the Osu Castle.
I just see it as populist. It's just a public gimmick and a clear case of PR and settings. That's what I would say. If they really and actually want to be seen that they are biting the bullet and really scrapping this fuel allowance, I say two things. The fuel depot at the Castle Osu and the fuel depot at Jubilee House. Once you close down these two, then because these are the places that the government appointees go for the fuel. So nobody should come and play with our mind.
Some members of parliament with the majority caucus have called for an immediate overhaul and thorough investigation of military personnel stationed in Boku. This follows the destruction of a revered statue of the Kusaug overlord by some individuals alleged to be military officers. In a strong appeal, they have also urged the Asantehene Otumfuo Seitu II to expedite his mediation efforts to restore peace and stability to the conflict-ridden area.
We are appealing to him, to expedite action. And we know it's a complicated matter, but we all have confidence in him and his ability to bring an end to the situation. And the earlier, the better for all of us.
The Ghana Armed Forces should immediately or should take immediate steps to rebuild the statue of our overlord. We would like to use this medium to respectfully urge His Royal Majesty, the Asantehene, to expedite his mediation of our conflict.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Armed Forces has said it will launch a full-scale investigation into alleged acts of brutality carried out by soldiers in Boku over the weekend. This, the army said, is to identify and hold accountable any personnel suspected of having affiliations with the town's feuding factions, restore peace. Brigadier General Frank Wolanyo Adbebo is a general officer commanding of the Northern Command of the Ghana Armed Forces.
Military is here to ensure that citizens of Ghana, whoever you are, which tribe you are, once you're a citizen of Ghana, and even foreigners who are here, are safe and doing their job without any risk. So your safety is our concern. So for the chieftaincy issues, we have no hand into that. However, I've taken note of the fact that some of my men are aligned to one or two of people and they are doing whatever they are not supposed to do. I can assure you that we will look for them and fish them out so that peace returns. So that trust that you have for the military should be there.
The Minister of Education, Haruna Idrisu, has directed the National Teaching Council to begin steps towards scrapping the controversial teacher licensure examination by August 30. As part of this directive, teachers who failed last year's exam will be granted the opportunity to rewrite, setting the stage for a smooth transition to the complete cancellation of the exams in the coming months.
The last of it must be concluded not later than 30th August. If there is a last opportunity of those who sat and couldn't make it, that process should not travel beyond 30th August. So you are to work with the registrar, get us a firm date, and we put that off.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. As always, proudly brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, and also Sato Insecticide Spray and Coil Tum Tum Precom. We got some news. Some 3 hours ago, a devastating fire outbreak in the bustling Langkwantanang area, specifically the Medina Race Junction. Now, that's coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. And this fire outbreak, we got news of it 3 hours ago. In fact, the fire has been brought under control, but then again, it's left in its wake a lot of destruction. This was what happened at about 6:30. That's when we got notice from the Ghana National Fire Service of this fire outbreak. This is around the Medina Race Junction area, sending shockwaves through the community. Eyewitnesses say the fire started from a gas explosion in one of the shops around the Medina Race Junction, close to the Snit Flats. So quickly, this fire, we understand, spread to adjacent stores, consuming everything in its path. Now, they described the scene as chaotic, with people rushing to safety and others attempting to salvage their belongings. Now, the fire service were quickly, we understand, alerted, and then also were able to attend to the fire. And firefighters, as we speak, are still battling with the fire to contain the blaze and prevent it from spreading further. Now, despite the efforts, what you're seeing is when the fire started as of almost 4 hours ago. That's when we got this information. But right now, despite the efforts by the fire service, the fire caused significant damage to property and killing we understand that we're also monitoring reports, still seeking some confirmation from the fire service of the reported death of a 2-month-old baby, reportedly, who was in one of the containers that was affected by the fire outbreak. So we're knocking on the doors of the Ghana National Fire Service. This video we obtained exclusively. My colleague, Kingsley Amachi, is on the ground. He is at the fire scene as we speak. Kingsley Amachi is there for us, giving us updates. So what you're seeing right now is what is happening as we speak at the fire scene at the Medina race area. And we understand thousands of property lost and shops running into hundreds have been affected by this fire outbreak. These are the kiosks, wooden kiosks. And if you know this Medina Race Junction area, we understand that this is a fire-prone area. In this year alone, we've counted about 3 fire outbreaks at that particular location where there are a number of squatters, and also we understand some commercial sex workers who work in these areas as well. It's a known area. The fire service is aware of this as well. And whenever there's a fire outbreak, they clear the debris and rebuild with the kiosk, and it serves as a place of abode for these squatters and some commercial sex workers, we're told as well. So this is what's happening right now as we speak at the Medina Race Junction area. The situation quite concerning and troubling. The affected individuals have been left to pick up the pieces and rebuild their lives, as we're seeing right now. And we understand the fire service is still on the ground, battling with the fire to control the fire outbreak. So some of the people you're seeing in this video are fire officers, the firefighters. And also, we got information that the fire tender at the Medina station has broken down, and so they had to dispatch a fire tender from the Teshinungwa Trade Fair area to the Medina area to fight this fire. That's according to information we got from the fire service. The closest, from what we're hearing right now, there are about 4 fire tenders fighting the fire as we speak. And this is it. They've been able to bring this fire outbreak under control based on what we're hearing. So we'll keep an eye on this rather troubling situation, and we'll be updating you here on Ghana Tonight. Kingsley Amachi, my colleague, is still at the fire scene, so stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. We'll give you some more on this. But coming up next, the High Court has adjourned proceedings to July 23 to hear the Attorney General's application to strike out the suspended Chief Justice's judicial review. Meanwhile, there's a latest from the Chief Justice. She has filed a fresh judicial review, this time against one of the petitioners seeking her removal. Stay with us. We're going to unpack the matters tonight on these key issues. And Dennis Baberi-Wadam Esquire is with me. Now, some lawyers have expressed divergent views on the latest suit filed by the Chief Justice, seeking a declaration that one of the petitioners' shining stars, you remember this is one of 3 petitions that we do know from shining stars, seeking her removal, does not exist. He says this shining stars does not exist in law. A cross-section of the public also believe the Chief Justice is forum shopping. Now, the latest suit indicating that there are no records showing the existence of any such organization known as Shining Stars has gotten many tongues wagging. And to indeed get a bit more detail into this and to understand the context in which things are playing out. And I keep telling you that this matter of the petitions against the Chief Justice, Article 146 at play, and in all these processes seeking the removal of the Chief Justice, as she has been suspended now, proverbially, we say it's a rolling stone. It's gathering a lot of dust in many ways, as we're seeing. Yesterday, Dennis Baberi-Wadam Esquire was in the studio. Dennis, we were caught talking about the Chief Justice going to the ECOWAS court. Yes. And then we're waiting for a date for that particular case. So we know whether the $10 million she's asking for and so on would be granted. And then now we wake up to this, a fresh move from her as well. But there was a case that was supposed to be heard today, correct?
Precisely so.
What happened to it?
Yes, and that's the more reason why we try to track all these cases, just so our viewers are able to follow every step of the way. Because you do recall that even before the Chief Justice went to the ECOWAS Community Court, on the 9th of June 2025, the Chief Justice filed what we called a judicial review at the High Court. And this was largely a matter that alleges violation of her fundamental human rights, for which reason she wants all the processes quashed.
Right.
Now, when that application was filed, the Attorney General also filed another application to set aside this June 9 application, or in other words, to set aside this action of the Chief Justice dated June 9. Now, today was supposed to be the hearing for that motion seeking to set aside the Chief Justice's application.
I see. And what happened to it?
So that could not come on because both the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General were not in court today. They were represented by the state attorney who explained to the court that they were out to attend to other equally important issues.
I see.
So they prayed for an adjournment for that one to be heard. That's just one leg of it. There was also the issue of non-service, because lawyers for the Chief Justice had also filed an affidavit in opposition to that particular application seeking to set aside the judicial review. And for that matter, they needed to have served same on the Attorney General and proof service of same.
Okay.
That proof of service was not available at the court at the moment. So the court also put that together, adjourned the hearing to July 23, and also asking that lawyers for the Chief Justice ensure that service is done upon the Attorney General and proof of same be shown. So for that reason, that hearing could not happen. But on the 23rd of July, other things being equal, the Attorney General will be expected to make a case as to whether or not the move to set aside this judicial review will be upheld by the court or otherwise.
I see. So this is the first judicial review.
Yes.
That the suspended Chief Justice.
In other words, that is the first action that the Chief Justice brought before the High Court.
Right.
Mind you, all other actions had been before the Supreme Court, which were largely constitutional matters seeking interpretation and subsequent injunction applications. The first time she came to the High Court was in respect of this judicial review. It's the same judicial review that she mentioned when she publicly addressed the nation on on happenings that were ongoing.
Yeah.
And that is the matter that is yet to be heard. Even before it is heard, the Attorney General says that, no, I want to set this aside. So the court should give the Attorney General the opportunity to be heard on that motion, which was supposed to be today. Like I explained, it's not been able to be heard. So we are hoping that on July 23, the Attorney General will make a case to see whether or not this application will be set aside.
It's an important distinction that you make, because then we are clear in our minds that there's a first judicial review which has not been heard. Now we're waking up this morning to another judicial review.
Precisely so.
By the Chief Justice?
Yes.
What is it all about? Let's get into that.
So that has to do with one of the petitioners seeking the Chief Justice's removal. And if you do recall, we have mentioned on this particular show that aside the human beings who have petitioned the President for the removal of Chief Justice, there was also an entity in there which also petitioned for the removal of the Chief Justice. That entity is called the Shining Stars of Ghana. Now, the Chief Justice is bringing this application to say that the High Court should make a declaration that this particular entity does not exist. It does not exist in law, and it does not exist in fact. That is to say, you know, there are some entities that only exist in law.
True.
For example, a company, we say, has a legal personality. So in law, a company is deemed to exist as a person.
Right.
In fact, it would be like you and I, Alfred, people can see we exist. So the argument made here, or what is suggested here, is that whether it is in law or it is in fact, this entity does not exist.
It is there's no traces of it
anywhere.
I see. Okay, so that's so for example.
Yes, so that's just by way of one of the reliefs that she's seeking by way of this particular judicial review. Mind you, the earlier one largely had to do with allegations of violation of fundamental human rights.
Yes.
Now, beyond that, she's saying that one of the petitioners, one of my accusers, does not even exist in the first place to start
Shining
with.
stars.
Shining Stars of Ghana.
She hasn't seen any stars shining anywhere.
Not at all.
Okay.
She's also seeking another relief to the effect that the court makes a declaration that the petition to the president allegedly uttered by Shining Stars of Ghana is void. And why is she saying that it's void? That is void because of the fact that the Shining Stars of Ghana does not exist in fact or in law. It goes back to the same point of the non-existence of the entity that she's talking about. So if the entity does not exist, now following through that, she says that now this petition that has been sent to the president, purportedly uttered by this entity, is void because the entity itself, as she puts it, does not exist. The other relief is to the effect that the purported prima facie determination in respect of petition by Shining Stars of Ghana is null, is void, and of no effect. That is also mounted on the very first relief that has been sought, that this entity does not exist.
Right.
If the entity does not exist, how then does it petition? And based on its petition, a prima facie case has been made against her. So largely, those are the reliefs that she's seeking in that particular line. She's also seeking an order to bring up to this court for the purposes of caution and accordingly caution the purported prima facie determination finding made by the president in consultation with the Council of State. That to the extent that based on a petition presented by an entity which does not exist was considered in a prima facie determination made, her prayer to the court by way of a relief is that such prima facie should be brought before the court for it to be quashed. And that's the essence of, the essence of the kind of application that she has brought before the court. Judicial review. Right. Usually you ask for orders in such nature. True. It's going to be a certiorari, it's going to be a mandamus, or in this respect we'll be talking about a certiorari. She continues, well, so that's the final relief. It was to reason
that she together with her lawyers would have done their homework in checking the legal status of Shining Stars in every registration whatsoever. If it's an NGO, it's a company, a partnership, and they don't see any records of Shining Stars under any of our laws.
That is to be expected, especially so when you're making the argument that the entity exists in law. If it exists in law, there is a procedure or there's a standard by which an entity can exist in law. And that is one of the ways you find it either being registered as something or something else. But there's also the other question of whether it exists in fact. They make the argument that it does not even exist in fact as well.
I see. So it could be the case that an entity may not, just for the benefit of analysis, may not exist in law, but could find some remedy in fact.
Yes.
And some consideration could be given to an entity's claim, even if it is not existing in law, but there's some factual basis to the claim of the said entity that has no legal basis.
So that is why when you look at the reliefs very carefully, they are couched tightly to say that you see that it doesn't end with the construction doesn't end that does not exist. It goes on to specify in what form it does not exist.
Yes.
In law, it says it does not exist. In fact, it says it does not exist.
So that's on both fronts.
Yes. So it will be on them to show that yes, when it comes to the lawful existence of an entity, this is how it should exist. And we have done checks A, B, C, D. It does not exist. When it comes to the existence in facts, these are the things that we are looking at. We have done our checks A, B, C, D, and it does not exist.
Right.
When the court is persuaded by then, perhaps it will go on to make its orders and also grant the reliefs as the Chief Justice is seeking in this particular one. But mind you, there are quite a number of cases still pending. And for the purposes of our viewers, just to go back, as far back as May 21, 2025, she filed a writ of summons at the Supreme Court that is yet to be determined, more of a constitutional matter requiring interpretation. On the same day, there was an application for an injunction that was also filed on that day. That injunction has been determined and dismissed unanimously. On the 9th of June, a judicial review at the High Court. This matter is yet to be determined, but even before that, Attorney General has filed an application or a motion to set aside this one. This matter will be heard. The AG's matter will be heard on the 23rd of July. 4th July, a case had been filed at the ECOWAS courts. Before the substantive matter, Yesterday, a hearing was held, and that was for interim measures. Arguments were made. It was postponed for ruling on that particular interim measures.
Absolutely.
That date for the ruling, we still do not know. Okay. And now the latest coming in is the fact that there's a judicial review, and that is the Chief Justice seeking reliefs against the shining stars of Ghana, making allegations that it does not exist, either in fact or in law. Dennis Poberi Wadam Esquire, it's always great having you. Thank you, Alfred. Break down the issues. And let's stay the steam on this. And Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. He's joining us on Zoom. Counsel, good evening. Thank you, as always, for staying patiently, hearing Dennis run through the reliefs that the suspended Chief Justice is asking for. We are very clear in our minds our limitations in discussing this topic this evening, so as not to be cited for sub judice. But looking at what Dennis has just put out, and the information that is publicly available, how does this latest move by the suspended Chief Justice strike you?
So, Mr. Ocansey, as usual, we'll repeat the caveats, all right? This interview is not an assessment of the merits of the application filed by the Chief Justice. No, far from it. Rather, we are seeking to give education on some of the known issues, okay, based on past decisions and of the Supreme Court and legal principles. So we're just raising some of them hypothetically and answering. We are not discussing the merits of her application per se. I have not read the application. I've not cited it. It's the news item I've seen, so I cannot purport to be dealing with the substance of it. Okay, so that said, this is not the first time that a case has been raised against petitioners or a petitioner under Article 146. You know, even in the Kufuor's time, the removal of Charlotte Osei, there was the case that a certain petitioner was dead and yet was part of the petitioners. Can you imagine? The petitioner was reportedly dead, yet he was a petitioner. And the Charlotte Osei case went on. And then we all know what happened to Charlotte Osei. Okay, yeah. That apart. Now let's come to a decided case the Supreme Court has dealt with in respect of Article 146. So there is a case of Justice Logo, Justice Derry, and then others, and Justice Eyisi also, against Tiger IPI, the Chief Justice, and then the Attorney General. Now, that's a case that happened in 2015. So for lawyers and also for those who are interested in reading the full report, when you want to read, it's cited as 2015, 2016, one Supreme Court of Ghana law reports, right? Yes, 2015, 2016, sorry, volume 2 Supreme Court of Ghana law reports. Okay, so in that case, the Justice Logo, Justice Derry and co. raised an argument that Tiger PI is not registered as a company. And you know, in law, if you register a sole proprietorship at the Registrar General, that is not a limited liability company. So in simple terms, a sole proprietorship, or when you hear business enterprise, cannot sue in its own name. It doesn't have separate legal personality. To get separate legal personality, you have to incorporate a company. The one you hear, limited liability company, or even we have unlimited companies. And also we have the NGOs, right? Yes, guarantee companies, etc. But the one called sole proprietorship or enterprise, it doesn't have a separate legal personality. So it's the case that though Anas wrote the petition, and even when you read the report, it says that the beginning line, Anas says that he, Anas, as a citizen of Ghana, brings this petition. I'm paraphrasing. Maybe if there's time, I can refer to it and see what the Supreme Court said. So they looked at the beginning paragraph and then decided that, oh, the petition was brought by Anas in his personal capacity, notwithstanding the fact that he used the letterhead of Tiger IPI. Tiger IPI. So based upon it, the Supreme Court said, look, we are looking at substance over form. Substance over form. That's a principle we've used on this program, Ghana Tonight, the key points, etc. It's a principle that is known to law, known to accounting, known to other many other professions. Substance over form. So the Supreme Court said, yes, the petition was done on Tiger PI letterhead. Tiger PI is not a limited liability company. Yes, we agree. But the person who wrote the letter says I. So let me read. It says, this is what the Supreme Court at page 1061 of the report said. The substantive part says, this is the humble petition of Anas Aremiyao Anas, and Article 146, etc. So the Supreme Court said, look, you see, the person says, this is my petition, but he put it on the letterhead of a sole proprietorship or this enterprise. That cannot make it the work of the enterprise, but it's the person who signed. He signed in his personal capacity. And by the way, yes, this is not the first time, even in court, when you sue in the name of an enterprise, then sometimes a mistake is detected. Yes, they do the needful and then they're able to save the case because the enterprise is the person himself. Lawyers know the case of Isufu versus this Isufu Kabori versus Ghana Ports and Harbors. Yes, the Supreme Court looked at it. That's in the early 90s, I think 93, 94 Supreme Court, thereabout. Supreme Court said, no. Look, these kind of things, we'll just put the man's name there. The court is there to do justice. There are a number of other cases I can refer to. So what we should be taking away from this whole interview is that the Supreme Court says they look at the real issues. They are not there to be deflected by fanciful possibilities. No. So if only they find an identifiable name and then it is signed, so they can identify that this individual, this is his name, he signed it, the court may well save it. Yes. Okay. So that's one case that can illuminate this process, that at least the Supreme Court looked at it and said, look, they are doing substance over form. They want to get to the real issues. Maybe there's a bit of time. Let me see we can read just the last paragraph of the Supreme Court decision saying that they will do, yes. It says, the submission by the plaintiffs that the first defendant, Tiger IPI, is an unincorporated body and therefore incompetent to submit a petition to the president is not only disingenuous, it is a ruse to sway this court from the real issue. You see, it is a ruse to sway this court from the real issue. We find the submission unwarranted and would dismiss same. Okay, so that's what the Supreme Court did in the Justice Logo, Justice Derry, and Aissie Adu versus Tiger Eye. Okay, so I mean, there are other parts of the decision that we cannot go into, but because of lack of time. So right. These are the principles. And as I mentioned, the key thing is that the Supreme Court in other cases have said that they are there to do substantial justice. Of course, we should know that there are limits too.
Right.
Yes, if the person is totally dead, generally, a dead person cannot start a petition. But even then, of course, I'm not citing it as a good example, but I'm saying that even then, in the Charlotte Osei case, it was reported that one of the petitioners was dead. But presumably, because the other petitioners were alive, the petition went through. True. So we're just expanding the principles. Who knows? As Justice Tokonu is challenging these things left, right, center, by the time she's done, they would have generated a lot of decisions that would also help. So in doing this, she's advancing our democracy. She's also expanding the frontiers of our legal jurisprudence because this will result in a court decision and it will illuminate the process. So for me, as I've always said, it appears it's better.
Yeah, but Councillor, there's a point I just wanted to have you quickly respond to, and just for the benefit of clarity. If you're there, and then maybe if you just reposition, because there's a break in the connection. Is that to say that the legal status of a petitioner, not with direct reference to this case, but the legal status of a petitioner in a case cannot invalidate the details of the said petition?
No, we can't use one decision, one Supreme Court decision specifically on 146 to conclude, right? You can never make that argument. That is not material. It all depends on the circumstances of each case, except that the court is saying that when they see a real issue, so if what is in the petition is weighty, and then an identified person has signed it, why would we go and say that, oh, because maybe at one point the petition is made to look like it is a company, then in another point it's made to look like it's an individual, so we throw it out? No, that's what the Supreme Court has said in this decision. But remember that one Supreme Court decision specifically on the capacity of a person to present a petition under Article 146 is not sufficient to conclude, no. Until when the Supreme Court thinks they've given a number of decisions, and so they think that is all, they will state it. When it comes to Article 181, yes, the international laws, etc. Yes, after the Woyome, Isophoton, those cases, the Supreme Court finally said, look, we think we've explained this area of the law enough. If anybody has any challenge against these provisions, the person should go to the High Court, okay? But for this side, we cannot say that's under Article 146. We can't say that the Supreme Court has exhausted all the jurisprudence, every opinion it wants to render. Not yet, okay? But you remember, so because this only one decision under Article 146 specifically, you see, I brought in other cases from court. I mentioned Isufu Kabore versus Ghana Ports and Harbors. There are other decisions. You find Amprechum versus Diverse Child Implementation, the whole lot. So the main things that the Supreme Court had announced, I mean, that's 2007, 2008, that they've moved away from technical justice to substantial justice. Substantive justice. Yeah, they are not doing technicalities, just technical justice, but they want substantive justice. So they want the justice to be functional. They want the justice, you know, like we say, the law was made for man, not man for the law, those kind of things. And just like what the Supreme Court said in the Justice Logo, Derry, and Isiado versus Tiger Eye, that they are looking at substance.
Over form, essentially, the substance over form, as you've earlier referenced. Thank you. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner, and this is a matter that has just come up today. The coming days as well would offer us a lot more time and some references to bring matters in perspective. But as always, thank you so much for joining us. As a private legal practitioner, Martin Pebo, thank you. But this is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, while government is defending the president's directive to scrap fuel allowances for government appointees, the minority is dismissing it as a PR gimmick. Now, we go beyond the politics to hear from labor and energy experts to understand exactly, you know, what this means in terms of the revenue or this would generate and how much it would save us as a people with this decision that government has taken, justifying its decision to cancel the allocation of the fuel allowances to all political appointees. Now, there's been some questions asked that government will have to come back to give us details of exactly the political appointees that are going to be affected or that are within the bracket of the people who are going to be affected by this directive. This is part of the broader measure to reduce government expenditure. The deputy presidential spokesperson, Shamima Muslim, in an interview earlier today, said exemptions will be provided for regulated official travels involving specific government assignments. Take a listen to Shamima earlier today. Take a look.
The course is also the symbolism of a government that practices what it preaches and a government that wants to show leadership in action and also congruence to the values that it expects its own citizens to accept. So as we speak, the exact cost is still being computed, and we will make it available to the public as soon as it is ready. As the directive was given today, it would take a few weeks to put the total cost together because the budgeting year has not ended. Usually you would have your budgetary reports based on your expenses towards the end of the year. So it's mid-year and this directive has come in, so it would take some time to compute how much we as a government have spent so far with regards to allocation, fuel allocations from January till this point.
That's Shamima Muslim there, but the minority is saying it is merely a PR gimmick. Here's Samuel Awuko. He's a member of parliament for the Ekuapem North constituency. He spoke to the media earlier today in parliament on this. Take a look.
I think there are more questions to be asked with this particular directive. I just see it as populist. It's just a public gimmick and a clear case of PR and settings. That's what I would say. If they really and actually want to be seen that they are biting the bullet and really scrapping this fuel allowance, I say two things: the fuel depot at the Castle Osu and the fuel depot at Jubilee House. Once you close down these two, then, because these are the places that the government appointees go for the fuel. So nobody should come and play with our mind. I say close down this fuel depot. And then number two, how much were we spending on this fuel allowance? Once we get to know, then at the end of the year, we can say that, okay, we've made savings of 1 Ghana cedi or 10 billion cedis or 100 million cedis. But without that, they're just playing on our mind. And who is a political appointee? There must be definition. Every CEO, mind you, the CEOs have contracts also different from that of ministers. I've been a CEO before. Your entitlement includes fuel allowance. They don't take that fuel allowance or fuel coupons or fuel from Castle Osu or Jubilee. It is embedded in the organization's cost of running the machinery. So please, we've had enough settings. We need clarity on these matters.
Well, you hear him say he's been a CEO before. He headed the National Lottery Authority. But Shamima Muslim speaking and then other government officials talking to this particular issue, then there was some further clarity about the detailed parameters and categories of the approved assignment. It's going to be on the screen right now. Would be communicated to all appointees, similar to the existing code of conduct. So there's going to be further detail on this particular directive in the coming days. And we'll also get to know the detailed parameters, the categories of the political appointees and the approved assignments. With all of that would come in the coming day. We also asked specific questions about the money that's going to be saved from this directive. Where is it going to be invested? Because this is not the first time. This is not the first time that we've gone on this path of expenditure cutting. But then again, is there any visible presence, reference to where these monies that are saved from such interventions are invested? Well, we got information that the health sector is going to be an area to look at, the education sector as well, and then local government. These are areas that government is looking at investing the money that is going to be saved from this particular directive. But already, this administration has been on the path of implementing some cost-cutting measures to reduce the cost of governance. First, we saw the downsizing of the size of the ministers to 60. That was the first thing the president did when he took office. And then the directive of no first-class travels for government appointees. Then we heard of the ban on the DSTV, satellite TV subscriptions at the Jubilee House. We understand it's going to be extended to all agencies of government. And then also all travels by appointees would require presidential approval, and the cancellation of few allowances, as we're hearing today, and a few others as well, as we've seen the finance minister as well announced. But if you recall, in 2022, the then Finance Minister, Kenneth Oforiatta, also announced some cost-cutting measures, specifically in March. This is not the first time we're hearing of fuel allowances being either reduced or cancelled by government. In 2022, the then Akufo-Addo administration reduced fuel allowances for government appointees by 50%. It was meant to achieve the deficit of 7.4% at the time, because in 2022, that was when we're still reeling under the impact of COVID-19. The DDEP was heavy. And this is what Ken Oforiatta said at that press conference. Take a look.
These times call for very efficient use of energy resources. In line with this, there will be a 50% cut in fuel coupon allocations for all political appointees and heads of government institutions, including SOEs, effective 1st February 2022.
This was Ken Oforiatta in 2022. And they put the savings of that policy to 52 million cedis in 2022. Duncan Amoah is Executive Director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Duncan, thank you for joining us. I mean, you've been doing the numbers already and trying to put some figures to how much we're going to be saving from this directive that the President has just issued. Now, how's the picture looking like?
Around, and we have asked of government what exactly the directive means. What we get is that indeed every appointee of the president, with the exception of the public office holders or the civil servants who probably rose to their offices that have contractual obligations per their contracts, they are exempted. But every single other appointee of the president is affected by this directive. And off the top of our heads, we are quite aware that you are dealing with in excess of 6,000 appointees of the president. And that is where, if you even did just a little extrapolation of some 10-20% of that number, you are dealing with about 1,500 of such direct appointments who equally would have benefited from fuel allocations every single month. You are talking of ministers, deputy ministers, other appointees, special assistants. You are dealing with presidential staffers. Every single appointee of the president is simply going to forfeit the fuel allowance bit. Off the top of our heads, we are quite aware that a lot of them are averaging about 10,000 cedis. Some are doing 30,000 cedis fuel allowance a month. So we did some averages. The state could be saving about 10 million Ghana cedi every single month per this directive. Within a year, you are looking at about 120 million Ghana cedis in savings. And so we have requested that the state put these funds into an account.
And see, that particular point, let me hold you on there, because there's been recommendations that instead of putting it into an account, as we've seen in previous instances, it should rather be invested in tangible, specific physical structures and projects that we can all point to and say, this road was constructed from the savings we made from this money, a hospital, for instance, or something of a sort. So there'll be some visible accountability to the money saved for this, departure from what we've seen in the past. What's your take on this?
Yes. We would not want a situation where it's just a directive and then the benefits or effects of it, we cannot be able to put any finger to. So we want to see a situation where at the end of a period, if we can publish, whatever savings we made, if there were specific interventions that Mr. President applied those savings to, we should be able to have these tangibles that we can point to. In the absence of that, it would only become a cliche, a slogan, as usual by the political class. Oh, we have done this, we have done this. On the grounds, however, there will be nothing to show for. So clearly, we are all up for the fact that the money so saved should be applied to specific interventions that you and I could point a finger to, so that successive generations could also say that there once was a government that decided it was not going to continue being wasteful as far as buying of vehicles, as far as paying for maintenance of these vehicles, sometimes paying of drivers for these vehicles, and then also adding fuel. So appointees only get to live off freely, although you would agree with me, most of the appointees of government usually earn a lot more than the ordinary people whom they claim to serve.
And that's also been a matter of conversation indeed. And so these areas of cost cutting will still be a matter of conversation going forward. Mr. Duncan, appreciate you. Duncan Amoah is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. There's some breaking news coming through right now. And this is the breaking news here on Ghana Tonight. Now, the breaking news we've got information of right now, we're going to put on the screen. It's a letter from the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General to the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, addressed to the Executive Director. And this is bearing the headline, Directive to Investigate Allegations of Illegal Mining Activities by Named Individuals. It states, I write to direct your esteemed office to initiate investigation into suspected illegal mining activities being perpetrated by certain individuals within mining districts in the country. The directive is born out of growing public concern corroborated by media reports and intelligence regarding the involvement of some citizens in unauthorized mining operations, generally called galamsey, that in blatant contravention of the previous that's the provisions of the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, as amended by Act 995. These activities not only flout our mining regulations, but also gravely endanger our water bodies. As your office is aware, His Excellency the President has consistently reiterated his government's commitment to eradicating illegal mining and restoring sanity to the natural resource governance regime in the country. In line with this national stance, and pursuant to our mandate under EOCO Act 2010, Act 804, I am directing your office to invite, and take note of this, to invite the following persons named in recent credible reports for interrogation, namely Mr. Yakubu Abanga and Joseph Yamin. Joseph Yamin. This is the national organizer of the NDC. Now, additionally, you are to investigate any other persons found to be complicit in these unlawful mining activities. The scope of this investigation should include the matters highlighted in the Professor Frimpong Boateng report on illegal mining. That is the scope of the investigation. Should include the matters highlighted by Professor Frimpong Boateng in his report. Furthermore, considering the regulatory oversight role of the Minerals Commission, you may invite the Chief Executive Officer of the Commission, that's the Minerals Commission, to assist in investigations. It expresses trust in the EOCO to do this and uphold the rule of law and ensure integrity of our extractive governance framework. So this is signed by Dr. Dominic Akuritinga Ayine, Attorney General, Minister for Justice. This is some breaking news coming through right now. So these two individuals are talking about then Joseph Yamin, the national organizer of the NDC, and the vice chair, that is Abanga Yakubu as well. So these are the two who have been named in this letter to the EOCO director from the Attorney General. Very interesting developments coming in. So stay with us. We're back shortly after this quick break. This is Ghana Tonight.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle, from the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart
of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani.
From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust. Impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News. Leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle.
From the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani.
From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust. Impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News. Leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. And before we go, let's just reiterate the breaking news that we brought to you just before we went for the break, and it's going to be on your screen right now. The Attorney General has written to the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, and essentially to invite the following persons named in recent credible reports for interrogation, namely Yakubu Abanga and Joseph Yamin. Additionally, EOCO is being directed by the Attorney General to investigate any other persons found to be complicit in these unlawful mining activities. The scope, and the emphasis is that the scope of this investigation should include the matters highlighted in the Professor Frimpong Boateng report on illegal mining. So this is an instructive part of this breaking news we're just getting. So the scope of this investigation into these, that's Joseph Yamin, the national organizer of the NDC, and the vice chair of the NDC, Abanga Yakubu. These two are all national executive members of the ruling NDC. The scope of the investigation into whether or not they're involved in illegal mining is and should include the matters highlighted in the Professor Frimpong Boateng report on illegal mining. Fundamental question is, it's clear that the Attorney General is taking some serious interest in the details in the Professor Frimpong Boateng report on illegal mining. And this is one that is going to be our focus of conversation in the coming days here on Ghana Today and across all media journal platforms. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. I'm Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by